Hello out there, friends. This is Roll for Crit, and we are reviewing a game from Board and Dice called Mandala Stones, based on the actual artwork of Mandala Stones, wherein different patterns and colors are painted onto stones. In this game, you are going to be, in a sense, influencing the creation of that art by moving these cylinders known as artists and adding the stones, the different colored stones on the board, to your own collection.
As you can see here, we have a board set up with all these very colorful stones, which you'll be collecting to get more points, as well as these black cylinders. These are the artists which you'll use to collect said stones. On your turn, you'll have two options. You have the option to collect and gain more, pick up, or you'll get to scoring. First off, let's talk about picking up these stones because you can't score anything without the stones. Now, to do so, you're going to pick up any one of these four artists, it doesn't matter which, and move it to a new location. That's any of these spots with the circles. That is not one of them. Once you move them there, you're going to collect, actually this would be a better one for here, every stone that matches the symbol on the artist you use. So there are two symbols. There's this more circle pattern you can see here, as well as this one's a bit more like a star, I would say. I'm sure there's more official terms for this. One other important thing is if a stone is touching another artist, such as in this one here is between both of them, you will not take that one as well. So when looking at where I placed this artist, I will not be picking up this one because one, it's between one, but also it does not match the pattern. I will be taking these two, but I will not be picking up this one as it is next to an artist. It does not matter on the pattern of the other artist. You then must place it in one of the empty slots on your board.
Once you have some stacks of stones on your personal board, then you're going to have the option to score on your turn instead of picking up new stones. And you'll see, as we said, there are 5 different spots. Each spot can hold between 1 and 4 of those stones, depending on how many you got and where you decided to place them. And when you are scoring them, you're going to choose a color. And any stack that has that color at the top of it will then be scored. You must have at least 2 of those. So in this instance, I could score pink or red, whatever this color is, because I have 2 of those stacks on there. But let's just say, I don't know, I have also that yellow. I can't score yellow until I get a second yellow alongside it. So ideally, you usually are trying to get more of the same color on top so that you can score more things at once and save some time. Each of these stacks also has a different scoring mechanism alongside it. So these ones in the center give you a certain number of points depending on the height of that stack. In this case, there are 2 stones here, so that would give you 2 points. If there was only 1, it would give you 4 points. This over here is pretty good. If you got all 4 stones like that, you could get 6 points out of this. Very nice. This one gives you points, 1 point for each different height that you have on your board total, and that includes 0. So in this case, you have 0, a 2 stack, and a 4 stack, so that would be 3 points, 1 for each of those. And this one gives you a point for each different color you have in that stack, plus 1. So right now you have 2 different colors, that would be 2 points plus 1 for a total of 3. And you keep track of your own score personally on your own little board right here. There's another option if you just don't have the right colors in play, or if you are trying to get rid of some on top to change the colors, you can just score any ones you want, ignoring these conditions for just 1 point. So I might say, you know what, I really want these purples showing so that I can score all 3 as purple. So I'm just going to get rid of those 3 right there. And that's going to get me 3 points, 1 for each of those. Usually not ideal, but it might help you set up for better turns in the future. Anytime that you score, regardless of how you do the scoring, you take all of the stones that you did score and you add them to this board, starting from the center and moving outward. So if you had scored these 2 piles, you would remove the top stone from each pile. The rest remain where they are. And you start here and you put them like that. And you can see some of these spots will give you extra points if you manage to get stones landed on them. And these spots here determine the final round of the game once they're hit, different amounts for different amounts of players, 2 through 4. And once that happens, everyone finishes their turn and sees how many points they scored overall. You also have some secret goals. You're going to have 2 of these at the start of the game. You only get to play one of them. You choose at the end which one you're going to go for to score. So you can decide up until the last minute which one you think is more viable. But there are going to be things like have a certain amount of stones on your board, certain amount of colors or patterns in some variety. And so that's just a little extra incentive of which types of stones you might want to be going for before the game ends.
That is the game. It's all about picking up the stones and trying to pick them up in the order you want and score those towers and get the most points. In a 2-player game, is what you'd expect in like back and forth. Like, okay, I know Jonathan's going to take a round to score this turn, so I can actually set up to maybe pick up another 4. Like move this artist out of the way and then come down here to pick that up. But in a 4-player game, these are all hopping around so much. You don't know what the state's going to be when it comes to your turn.
Yeah, and all of these, of course, are randomly arranged at the start of the game. So any game is going to have a totally different variation. And you don't know what players are going for. Someone might want blue stones, so you can be trying to figure that out and trying to block each other, like you said. Sometimes you might want to take maybe even a suboptimal path, hoping that someone will then leave it open just because you want that spot, which, like you said, is easier to do with fewer players.
Right. I think a great example would be like right now, let's say these were like around here somehow, and you're really hoping your opponent picks that up.
Right.
Because if they do, that's a 4.
Yeah. But another thing that's nice about this game that we picked up on is that when you first start, I think your instinct is to say, oh, the more I can get at once, the better. But you've got ones like over here, which actually reward you for having just 1 token in it, or like the height one, which wants you to have all different levels, even a 0 if you want to maximize those points. So often it's not just about, oh, let me try to get as many as I can. It's very dependent on what you're going for. And the colors, too, obviously are super important because not only if you take a stack of 3, this is determining like your next
3 scoring.
After you do the first one, 3 times. So it's not just like, you might just start thinking, well, I just want purples and that'll be easy. But then all of a sudden, before you know it, you've got a yellow and a blue and a pink, and it definitely takes a lot of, I think, more planning than you might think at first. A little more forethought into it.
Usually, this only happens when you have 3 or 4 picks. For example, let's say I wanted to go here, but I'm like, I really want to go blue, red, purple. That's not an option right now because you have to go clockwise with your picking. I could either go this way or I can do that. It's like sometimes you have to think like, oh, I can't get that in the order I really wanted it to be.
Yeah. And trying to figure out, is it better for me to... Should I take that? Like, is that good? Or should I just go for a different one? Or should I just score now and try to or just like remove some to almost maybe stall?
Yeah, well, sometimes I would think about, I'm going to score now. It's not the most optimal, but because if I score later when I'm full, I'm giving you more time to set up your own thing.
Yeah, that's interesting too. The players almost will determine the pace to some extent. Someone might be like, oh, I got 2 stacks, I'm scoring them, another 2, and now I have my next thing to score. Or you might try to build up everything you can and score it all at once. And sometimes when that happens, this board can fill up pretty quick. And like before you know it, the game's about to end. So you got to make sure what's my goal? I need to be careful about that. It's a very abstract game, obviously. They try to give it this story about that they're artists, but it's a little bit nonsensical. It doesn't really mean anything. But it definitely has the flavor of, a lot of games like this. I mean, it's not as... I'm thinking of like Go, but it's not nearly as intensive as that. But it's that sort of abstract style of game that there are 1,000 of out there. And I think with the pretty colors and everything, it does that. It fits that role really nicely. I had a good time playing it at both player counts that we tried.
Crits and misses for Mandala Stones.
Crits. Picking and scoring stones effectively is going to require a lot of forethought on your part. You're going to need to plan several steps in advance to maximize your scoring potential, which results in a unique and satisfying cascading effect as the stones and colors transfer from your board to the scoreboard.
Getting those colored stones in the towers in the right position can feel very good, not just for a 1 scoring round, but when you get that 1 great scoring round, and then you can score right after that with a lot of points, it can be very rewarding to see the colors line up perfectly.
There's no direct player interaction in this game, but what is there provides some tension as you might be able to block another player from a spot they want or take pieces that they want, or you're just going to want to be aware of whether or not they're going to score on that turn and how far that's going to progress the game. You really want to watch out and notice what your opponents are doing when it's not your turn. The components for the stones are these nice, weighty, solid pieces with pleasing, bright colors. It's a good tactile experience.
Misses. While the personal goals can reward you with more points than any one tower can, we didn't feel like they were these big surprises at the end of the game. More often than not, it wasn't going to really swing the game in a way that no one saw coming.
There are only 10 personal goals in the game, and there's a lot of overlap between the different types of goals. So before too long, you're going to know what's coming. So there isn't quite as much mystery or personal feeling of achievement as I would have liked.
What you actually do in your turn isn't much. You're pretty much either picking up some stones or putting them on the scoreboard. There isn't a whole strategy of trying to move things in a whole bunch of different areas usually, and especially at higher player counts, you really just have to wait and see what the board looks like on your turn.
I compared the game to Go earlier, and while that might give you a good sense of the style of the gameplay and the look of the board, it's certainly not comparable to the amount of depth that that game has. While there is randomization, so every time you play, you're going to be looking for different things, you're ultimately going to know what you're doing from game 1 to game 10.
I think we both had fun, but I do think you enjoyed the game a bit more. I mean, not that I thought it was bad, I just felt like I'm picking up and going. Like, I didn't feel like there was too much going on there, but I feel like that was more of a me thing. It sounded like, at least us discussing this beforehand.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Obviously it's not the world's deepest game. There's not a million options that you have, but
it's not tic-tac-toe.
No, it's certainly not that. And I found that I found it very interesting and satisfying trying to plan out which colors you want, which patterns you want, and how and when you get them. I mean, I have yet to win a game, so maybe that was I just didn't figure out that strategy yet, and that's why I feel like there's more depth to it than you do. But yeah, I really liked it. It's my expectations were, I didn't expect it to be bad or good. I just kind of went into it not knowing much, and I was pretty happy. I think if you like a simpler game,
I don't think
good.
I would definitely not call this bad. I think it's fine would be, and definitely a little bit higher, especially because of these pieces. I think it's fantastic for a lot of people to be like, oh, this is really fun. That's why it's great with me being like, this is fun to play with. I like to fidget and pick these things up.
Fun to play with, not to eat.
Oh, I guess.
They do look like candy a little bit, though.
A little bit. And I can imagine this, especially for maybe those who are new to the board game, just to be like, oh my God, look at all this fun stuff going on. And like just seeing, just being like, and everyone's going to feel great when they get those, like a 4 stack. Like that's always going to feel good.
Yeah. It's a nice quick one. The box time is like half an hour, and I think that's about right. So if you like a more abstract game with a lot of colorful pieces, looking for something like that to add to your collection, then check it out. It's called Mandala Stones. You, of course, can let us know in the comments what you think. How much depth have you found in the gameplay? Which strategies have you liked to employ? Maybe you have some secret move or a goal you really like to get. I don't know. Let us know in the comments down below.
We'd love to hear from you. Until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been a Roll for Crit review.
Thanks for watching. Why not like the video and subscribe to our channel? Maybe even ring that bell for us. We're also on Patreon. If you want to go over there, you can support us for just a few dollars a month and get some cool rewards in exchange for that. And we have a merch store. If you're looking for a way to show off your Roll for Crit love on t-shirts, we've got new designs coming out every so often. You don't want to miss any of those. So check out all those links in the description down below.